Boy here, and I got this aggressively average content for you today. And ladies and gentlemen, I have this article from Bloomberg to start out, titled Goldman says this health crisis is giving a boost to digital banking. And guys, the reason I read you these headlines from places like Bloomberg and Forbes is to show you what the more mainstream narrative is, how it continues to build. Because sometimes we could get stuck in our little XRP echo chamber. We need to look at the grand scheme of things because I believe XRP has a grand plan. XRP's reach, in my personal opinion, is going to be so vast. And we see the subtle narrative being built every single day about the digitalization of this global economy, leaving the US dollar. And we continue to see them talking about giving a boost to digital banking because of this health crisis. This hasn't stopped. They've continued to build and build and build, and there will be a climax of a moment where they show their hand. Now here, we see this article from CoinDesk titled "The Senate Hearing Sees Digital Dollar as a Tool for Economic Supremacy." We have shifted into talking the central bank digital currency, which is important, systemically important for the United States and their national security. The idea of a US digital dollar is no longer a fringe novelty now, it may be a means to an end. The U.S. Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee on Economic Policy conducted a hearing on winning the economic competition between China and the U.S. on Wednesday. Once again, the idea of a Federal Reserve-administered central bank digital currency reared its head. Much of the hearing was about America's economic relationship with China and both nations' economic relationships with the rest of the world. Rather than focus a major part of the hearing on crypto, as two previous hearings did, crypto was brought up as one of the many possible tools to maintain U.S. economic supremacy. This could be interpreted as crypto's increasing acceptance as a mainstream idea. Ladies and gentlemen, we remember this that just happened from the OCC, as banks now have the ability to custody crypto. This is one of the most important things that occurred recently, and I'm going to continue to show it so that nobody forgets. And guys, yet again, we have to remember Chris Giancarlo. He stated, for us, maintaining the dollar supremacy is not only an economic matter, it is a critical strategic matter. It is what allows us to have such efficient sanction regimes around the world as well as other benefits. Giancarlo, as he has said in the past, emphasized the issue for which nations' values would define the global reserve currency. At the moment, the US dollar fits that role, but he noted that the digital yuan could give the world's most populous nation an edge. And this is what's so important about the moment in history we're in. Judy Shelton is Donald Trump's Federal Reserve nominee. Judy Shelton just passed her first test in the Senate through the Senate Banking Committee. When asked about a U.S. central bank digital currency, Judy Shelton said it is extremely important and we are compelled to think about it. But however, a lot of people do not like her stance on the gold standard, including Senator Elizabeth Warren. That's why a lot of people do not want Judy Shelton to be in the Fed. Judy Shelton has walked back her stance on the gold standard. However, there is no accident that there have been massive rumors about the digital yuan being backed by gold. A lot of these US politicians don't like the gold standard. But if they hear that the digital yuan will be backed by gold, they will be forced to adopt a gold standard as a response. Every single endgame leads to the gold standard. Every single endgame leads to a U.S. central bank digital currency. And every single endgame points to XRP being the liquidity, the digital asset that transfers the value of the gold standard and these central bank digital currencies. Ladies and gentlemen, we have continuously seen the US and China have tensions. And here from CNN, we saw that the US orders closure of a consulate in Houston, calling it a massive spy center. And right now, from Reuters, I was shared this article that Asian markets to fall on the vow to retaliate against the United States. Asian markets are set to open mostly lower on Friday, as China vowed to retaliate against U.S. order to close one of its consulates, and the American equity markets fell on gloomy data about its labor market. Ladies and gentlemen, this is yet another thing to compound amongst the list of things that we know is causing all these tensions. There is a massive game of geopolitical and financial Jenga being played amongst all these politicians. And I'm just wondering, as I know a lot of you are, what is going to be the final catalyst that brings the whole house down? One has to be coming soon, because the whole world is watching. Everyone is paying attention. And on Cointelegraph, we see that Russian lawmakers finally passed country's major crypto bill. What's ironic is that this happened the same day the OCC allowed for crypto custody. This is coordinated. It's not coincidental. All these countries are revving their engines at the starting block of the greatest wealth transfer in human history, and the most epic crypto bull run all of us will ever see. And here, guys, I wanted to show you a visual of the entire US stock market's history. We see over here in 1929 the Great Depression, but right before that we saw World War I and the flu. What happened after both of these was a massive stock market retracement. Currently, what's going on in 2020 is the peak of this current bubble we're in. This graph is in a log scale. And what I want to point out to you is the current state of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Right here, back in the beginning of 2020, we saw a massive retracement. And the only reason we didn't fall through the floor was because of government intervention. This is what this health crisis did to financial markets. It reflated the illusion. It bought us time. If you ask your friends, families, neighbors, and loved ones, they will tell you that they're struggling. Because a lot of people are. And I believe there will be a shock to this system that makes it retrace yet again. I believe when that happens, we will see more intervention to reflate this bubble yet again, similar to what we saw March 20th, 2020. Right there was intervention. I believe we need to see another retracement that's going to spook these policymakers. I believe when we see all of this compounded with crypto regulatory clarity and an XRP classification, that's when we're going to see on-demand liquidity go to the moon and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, my next video is going to be an extremely important one. Just a little bit of speculation. But if this ends up being what I believe it could be, it's a game changer for XRP's future. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bearable Bull here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
So I think the role of the disruptors and anything that is using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto, assets, currencies, or whatever, and it's far from the bitcoins that we used to talk about a year ago, that is clearly shaking the system.
You dropped a bombshell in the luncheon there. That's the way I was describing it. It's almost like a mic drop. You are exiting this job, almost like a mic drop. And you said we need to go to a global virtual currency.
I think you're quite well known for your stance on the gold standard. Would returning to a gold standard help the U.S. economy? Can you talk a little about your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say I don't see it so much as returning, but more of a back to the future.
Okay.
I think that what a gold standard stands for is monetary discipline for its own sake. That is, if money is supposed to be a unit of account and a reliable measure and a dependable store of value, it really shouldn't be subject to who's the chairman of the Federal Reserve. And I think that money needs to be stable and provide the foundation for productive economic growth. And when money is just a variable that financial markets toss around, or it's part of a derivatives formula, or it's part of someone speculating on currencies, it's not serving the private sector in the sense of providing that reliable unit of account so you can make plans. And under a gold standard, you did have that stability, and I think that's what's missing. And so I like the idea of a gold standard. I mean, it could be used in a very cryptocurrency way. The point is, do you have a unified money system so that when you talk about the international marketplace, everyone is playing on a level monetary playing field?